Hey there everybody, how's it going? My name is Nova Aurora, and today I've got a Battlefield 4 China Rising first impressions video for you guys. Yep, China Rising came out yesterday for premium members like myself. If you are not a premium member, you will have access to it in 2 weeks on December 17th. So if you are a premium member, you can pick this up for free as part of your premium membership right now, and if not, you will have to wait until then. So, I suppose to start things off, I should say I am not having a whole lot of fun with China Rising at the moment. And you might be asking, well, Nova, why aren't you having much fun with China Rising at the moment? You just shot down that helicopter with a straw. That looks pretty fun. Well, the reason is this. You watching? Yeah. This is why I am not having a particularly enormous amount of fun with China Rising right now. Of the about 6 to 8 servers that I joined yesterday in an attempt to get this footage for you guys, not a single one of them was capable of going 5 minutes, much less an entire round, without suffering debilitating rubber banding and lag issues at some point. Now, I asked around a little bit to see what other people thought about this and if they were having similar experiences, and the responses that I got were all over the place. Some people said that they were having absolutely no issues with this at all and that it ran absolutely fine for them. Other people said that they had a little bit of rubber banding and lag here and there, but it was far from what I was experiencing. It was far from unplayable. Some people said that they were having a similar experience to mine, and that it was extremely difficult for them to find an enjoyably playable server. And there were even some other responses, such as that it ran fine, but in fact it was crashing a lot more for them, and that they had crashed for the first time in days on a China Rising map, when on the regular maps they had no problem with it. So, given the array of different responses, but that the fact that some of them are affirming what I have found myself, and given that on all of these maps I had sub 40 ping, as I usually do, I have a very strong connection, and on all servers that I then attempted to play that did not run China Rising maps, I had no lag or rubber banding issues whatsoever. I can only come to the conclusion that currently, for whatever reason, the China Rising maps are not incredibly stable yet. Your mileage might definitely vary with this situation, because clearly some people don't have any issues with this whatsoever. But even on the low ping servers, there were plenty of people, myself included, who have had an extremely frustrating experience with latency and rubber banding. So my recommendation would be, do not just jump into this expecting to be able to get right into an amazing server and play away as soon as you want, because it might take a little while for you to actually find a server you can play on. Of course, maybe I'm just unlucky and you'll be able to find a playable game the very first time you try. I have yet to find a server where that is the case. Anyway, I've ranted on about that for way too long, so let's get into the actual gameplay and the map, shall we? That sounds like a great idea. This first map is called Altai Range, I believe it is pronounced. DICE is, of course, no stranger to making strangely named maps that are very hard to pronounce, and there's another one we'll get to later that is even worse. But anyway, Altai Range is very, very much like the map from the Armored Kill expansion in Battlefield 3 called Albor's Mountains. It plays very similarly. There's a lot of open spaces with rocks for cover, some hilly terrains in this sort of open mountainous and plains kind of biome. The main difference here, though, is that there's only one central mountain rather than a couple different mountains and sort of that ring that you had in Albor's. This is more Albor's Mountain crossed with Galmud Railway, is how I would describe it best. And as such, it suffers from what I like to call the heavy metal syndrome, of course, aptly named after the famous or infamous Bad Company 2 map, Heavy Metal. What that is the fact that if you are not in a vehicle, there is very little you can do on this map. It is very wide open. There is only a very small section of the map up by D flag, I believe it is, where the radar dish is, that plays well to infantry combat, and otherwise, if you are on foot running out in the open, it is very likely you are just going to get sniped off by some bush Wookiee hiding up in a rock somewhere, or you are going to get blasted by another vehicle. This is not objectively a terrible thing, because of course vehicle play is a huge part of the Battlefield series. I just happen to enjoy maps where there is a good mix of vehicular and infantry combat, and I do not enjoy the maps that essentially force you to be on a vehicle most of the time to be particularly enjoyable. Of course, if you really love tanks, if that's about all you do, or if you're a jet pilot, then you'll probably really enjoy that map. That, in my opinion, is my least favorite map in the expansion. So anyway, here we are on to the second map. This is Silk Road, and if you played, again, the Battlefield 3 Armored Kill expansion, this should look very similar to you, because this feels and plays very much like Bandar Desert. At the time, the largest map in Battlefield history. I am not sure if it still holds that recognition or not, but anyway, again, suffering from heavy metal syndrome because it is so wide open. There is so much flat land, especially out in those dune areas where it's really just sand. There's not even any shrubs or cacti or whatever else grows in deserts for cover. It's just wide open. And here again, I know that my jet is disabled here, but I have never had the magical hand of the wind smack me down into the ground like that vertically before. I feel like that was very much attributed to the rubber banding and the lag issues, and I wish I could get you some better footage of it, but unfortunately I can't, because I got about what you're seeing here as all the footage I could have gotten that wasn't corrupted by lag and rubber banding, so I'm very sorry that I can't get you some nicer overhead footage of the entire map, but that's the way things go. And honestly, the reason why I say that is because despite the fact that this is a rather open map, and like I explained, I am not a huge fan of the gameplay on these maps, so it's not objectively terrible, it is a beautiful, beautiful map, especially in that area where all the mesas and the rock formations are. Absolutely stunning. I would be perfectly content almost to not even be playing a multiplayer game and just wander around that area exploring things for a little while. The environments on this map, and really on all of the China Rising maps, are very, very well done. And I think that that is often a strength of Battlefield maps and all the Battlefield expansions, except for maybe some of the ones like Close Quarters in Battlefield 3. The maps are just brilliant if they're themed in a certain way. The desert here feels even more than Bandar Desert and Erica Harbor did, previous desert maps. Feels like an authentic desert, feels like this is actually a battlefield that could happen, that could take place. This is a real location. Not that this is an arbitrarily staged area where the battle just happens to be going on. This really, really feels like an authentic desert environment, and I'm very thankful for that, because I think that if it wasn't such an engaging environment and such a nice map to look at, I would not be able to play this and have as much fun on it as I do. Because, again, there can be very long spans of time where you just don't do much, unless you play the domination mode, which takes place only around that central flag, which is in that sort of military camp area, which then takes on a very Call of Duty, close quarters. You're fighting around a lot of these small cubes of concrete and concrete barriers and tents and stuff. In that case, then it starts feeling less open, but of course you have to be playing Domination for that, and I'm not a huge fan of the Domination game type, again, because I like a mix of vehicular and infantry combat. So on to the third map here. This is Guilin Peaks, or Guilin, or Guilin, however the fuck you pronounce it. This is the map that I said was going to give people fits over pronunciation because DICE likes messing with people. But, at the same time, this is also, design-wise, my favorite map of the entire China Rising expansion. You can see here I'm in this sort of cave area. It seems like this whole map was built around these caves being a tourist attraction, and so you can go along these pre-lit paths that you would assume tourists go on and explore these caves where the flags are. Again, absolutely stunningly beautiful environments. This map combines some fairly open, but not overly so, environments in rice paddies with dense jungle foliage and these just incredible looking caves. I absolutely love the caves on this map. They are so much fun to play through and so much fun to be in. It's also very interesting that the central flag is located in a cave like that, because a lot of central flags tend to be in a rather exposed area. They like to be out in the open or up on a hill or something, and that can lead to just maelstroms of chaos when you're trying to attack them because all of the different angles are constantly open to attack. That is not the case with Guilin, however you say it, Peaks, because the central flag is in that cave. And you might think, well, that leads to a lot of choke point situations, and if you cap it, then that's the only thing that, or rather, the attackers have no chance of going up to that flag, because that's the only thing that the people who have the flag want to hold, because it's so easy to just sit up there and get kills. But that's not the case. That's not the case, that, at least when I've been playing it, because there's many different angles of attack up into that cave. It's a lot of fun to attack, and I thought it was very fair for both the team that had the flag and the team that was attempting to capture the flag. If you don't want to go right to the middle, as you can see here, there are plenty of flanking routes around the edges, and they provide plenty of quad bikes for you to do so. Here's one of the slightly more open areas, and you can see there's some small buildings, the rice paddies, open fields, and roads. So, again, very, very nicely diverse habitat for the battle to take place in, and I never felt, even in the slightest, like I was bored, or like the map was repetitive at all, or like I was just slowly trundling along from place to place in my vehicle like I often feel on Silk Road or Altai Range. No, I was always doing something, and I was always having fun on this map. If you are a more infantry-focused player, you are going to absolutely adore this map, because there are no heavy vehicles of any kind that I'm aware of, at least on the Conquest versions. I have not played this on Rush yet. You can see there are transport helicopters, but other than that, there are only dirt bikes, which are fantastic, I might add. Dirt bikes are making a return from the endgame DLC of Battlefield 3, and they handle very similarly. They are just as fun. You can launch them off of mines and C4 and fly across the map. They're an absolute blast. But anyway, back to the point. The only thing you have are the quad bikes and the dirt bikes. So you're not going to be finding tanks, IFVs, anti-airs, any of that stuff. And if you're a type of person, again, who enjoys that more heavy metal, as I like to refer to it, style of gameplay, you're probably not going to enjoy this map as much. But I should hope that even if you are that type of player, you'll at least hang around on this map for a little while, because it is just so beautiful, and it is so much fun to play on. I really, really am impressed with Guilin Peaks. So finally, here we have Dragon Pass. This is very, very much inspired by Bad Company 2 Vietnam, and I think Guilin Peaks, yeah, it has some Vietnam in there, but this one really feels like Vietnam. This one feels a lot like Phu Bai Valley, if you remember back to that map. There's this sort of central low-lying area with a lot of water and shrubby covering, and then raised sides and a couple of hills here and there where flags are mounted on. for a little bit of variation in the combat, and overall the environment is the same. It's this semi-jungle, rice paddies, small buildings, open, muddy and wet roads kind of environment, and for the most part I think that's fairly enjoyable. There are a lot of vehicles on this map. It is not quite to the level of Silk Road or Altai Range, but it is still, in my opinion, more vehicle-focused than infantry-focused. That said, I definitely enjoy it more than Silk Road or Altai Range, though not quite as much as Geelan Peaks, because you have the option to use vehicles, and you have the option to have the transport vehicles as well, not just the large one, but not just the large ones like the tanks and the IFVs, but you can also do fairly well on foot if you want to just stick around a certain cluster of flags, especially the A, B, and C flags, I believe, are relatively close together, and you can do pretty well if you're just staying on foot there and defending those as an infantry soldier. This does seem to be the only one of the China Rising maps which really does anything with water combat. There are not any attack boats, as far as I know, but there are these RHIB boats that, of course, if you know how to use them, that funny little Gatling cannon on them is an absolute blast. I'd love to play around with them a little bit more and get some more fun footage to show you guys, but unfortunately, until I can find some more reliable servers to play on, that is not going to be the case. Very, very unfortunate. So anyway, what is my conclusion on China Rising? Well, as usual, it's a mixed bag. Many Battlefield DLCs are like that, but I think that if they can sort out these apparent server issues, or maybe if I just can get luckier with the servers that I find, we'll have to see exactly how that goes. China Rising is definitely an enjoyable experience, and it has something for everybody. If you're a premium member, obviously go check it out and see what you think, and I think you'll have a pretty decent time with it overall. And to end on a positive note, here's a cute little Easter egg you can find in the Geelan Peaks downed aircraft. Little Buddhist samurai guy. Don't really know what he is. But anyway, that about wraps it up for me. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.